Hello and welcome back to Chandoo.org. In this video, we will look at how to group dates when you have pivot tables with the data model. This is a part of our advanced pivot tables video series, and this video in particular is a continuation of the tip 9.1 where we looked at grouping dates, grouping numbers and text when you do not have a data model setup. Now you might be thinking why there is a separate video for with the data model. Shouldn't the process be similar? And it is kind of similar, but it is also not same. To understand the differences between how to group data when you are working with data model, let's get into a sample file here, which we have been using for demonstrating some of the data model related things. So this one has, I will add a new worksheet, and then here I will just insert a pivot table. This file already has a data model that belongs to a call center data set. So we have three tables: calls, customers and representatives. And in the calls table, we have a date of call. Now when you have something like a date of call, you can add that here, and then you will see that all these dates will show up. Depending on which version of Excel you are using, although a data model is supported since 2013 of Excel, initially when Microsoft launched a data model in 2013 Excel, they removed the ability to group. So that means when you right click and click on group, it wouldn't be enabled, or it would not even work, because the idea is that because there is a data model, you would need to really create a mapping table that will tell each date what is the month or quarter or year it belongs to, and use that. Okay, but I believe there has been a change in this kind of a feature, because right now in of Excel 365, which is constantly updated, like every month I'm getting a new version of this, there is an ability to group. So as soon as I select groups, it would show me this box, but normally this box wouldn't be there in 2013 or 16 versions of Excel with the data model. So from here you can just click on all the groupings that you want. For example, you could say I got dates, I want to go to a level that has month and year, and then when you click OK, this will do a lot of screen flickering, and eventually it will give you a hierarchy of the dates so that you can compare information at a monthly level. Like you can see what is the total call count, how many calls we had by month, etc. You can even put the year in the next column so that you can compare at a monthly level. I'll just remove date of call, so we can see month versus month, Jan, Feb, March, like that, and then compare the calls. This is a good approach. But what if your version of Excel does have data model but you're not able to group? So for that reason, and also from a best practice perspective, it's always a good idea to actually add those columns, the year and month columns, either directly in the data table or as a separate table, and bring that over as a relationship. Now when you use a separate table to list down the dates and the corresponding information, like what each date's month is and year is and quarter is, such tables are normally called calendar tables. That's because they list all the dates and they behave like a calendar. Discussion about calendar tables is slightly more technical and deep, so we won't go there. But how do you take the normal data and add extra information, like what year it is, or what financial year it belongs to, or what is the quarter for it, or what is the day of week, etc. To do that, when you have data model, the best way to do this is look at the data model. You can see from data ribbon, queries and corrections, and it will show you all the tables. Now calls table has the date, so we will right click and edit that table. This will take you back to the Power Query editor. And from here you can select the date column. I have already added year and month here, as you could see. I've added year, month and month name as 3 extra fields. So you can select the date column, and then using the add column option, because the date column is already formatted as a date, you can derive some additional fields from it. For example, you can select this and then you can click on date and extract the start of the year. that will give you 1 Jan 2019 for all 2019 dates, and further down wherever that is, it will give you 2018 dates as well. Likewise, I'll just delete that because we don't really need that. You can also, for example, day of week, you can extract. It will be a number format. What if you wanted the name? You can extract a day, name of the day, and then that will give you Sunday, Saturday, Monday in plain English. So this is how you can derive those extra fields. One thing that you want to keep in mind is if you are working with some extremely large data set that has millions of rows or whatever, then this is not a good idea to add these columns like this, because it will just make the whole thing bloated. So in that case, you want to consider adding an extra table that lists all the possible dates and then tells you one per each date, what is the year, what is the month, what is the day. You might think, how is that different than having columns added here? The reason behind that is, if you have a million row table, then that doesn't mean you have million days. It's just they're all million things that happened in a span of 2 or 3 years. So it's split between 1,000 days, and each day has 1,000 transactions. Thinking, we have 3 years worth of data in million rows. So what happens is you would have the 2019 listed for 500,000 times, month name listed for maybe 100,000 times, and individual day details listed for several thousand names like that. So each thing is kind of duplicated, and this is all unnecessary. The fact that 9/22/2019 it appears 1,000 times, but for all those 1,000 times, the year is always 2019, the month is always September, month number is always 9, day is always Sunday. So what we could instead do is we could create a smaller table that has all those 1,000 days, and for each day we can just add those things and then bring that as an extra table, and using those relationships connect the main table with the calendar table on the date field. In that sense, you will have a smaller amount of data, but you are still able to answer any questions that you have about the information. So that is a good practice, but in general, when you have smaller chunks of data, like this is only 7,000 rows and only one place where the date is maintained, I wouldn't really worry where you add this column. So this is how you can use Power Query to add date related stuff. You can use, if you have a time column, you can also derive hour or minute or other details. Certain things like quarter can be slightly confusing, but if it is a simple calendar quarter, you can use this quarter of the year, that is Jan, Feb, March, as one quarter. But if your financial year begins in, let's say, September or April or something like that, you can use conditional column on a field like month number to calculate the quarter. So you would set up conditions like, from 1 to 3 this quarter, 3 to 5 that quarter, like that, and then that would give you that answer. So once you have that, you can close and load, and that columns will appear in the pivot table list for you to use here in the pivot table. So year and month were there. When you grouped, it also added date of call within brackets year and month. These were not really needed, so I'm just going to right click and ungroup, and that would kind of take me back to the situation that we have. Those fields will not be there, but year and month were part of raw data, so I can use that. So I can take away this thing and then use year and month. I'll use month name, and we can see this. Now, when you put something like month name, chances are it might come up in alphabetical order. You may want to just do A to Z, and that will restore the Jan to December order, because this is a known set of values, so it will always be sorted in January to December. So this is how the grouping for dates work. What about, I'll just rename this worksheet first, grouping demo. What about grouping things that are not dates? For example, I want to have a grouping based on customer's age. When you put age, it will give you all these options, and let's say we want to see how much is the zero amount calls. I don't think we have discussed that, so we'll just use call count. Yeah. And if I want to group this by ages of 5, you can again use this group option. But I think at this point, because this is not a date, the Excel's data model things kick in and then say I cannot group that. There's nothing that I could do. You can also multi-select and then try, it won't still work. So when you have something like this, you must actually do this as part of your data. You cannot really create any ad hoc grouping at the pivot table level. So how would you do that? Again, same thing as earlier, which is we will go to queries. We will edit the customers table for that matter, because that's where the age is. And from here, we can kind of create an age grouping as an extra column. So I'll show you how that would be done. Simply select age column, add column, conditional column. This would give you a screen through which you can introduce a conditional column. We'll call this as age grouping. And if age is, let's say, is less than 25, we will group them as up to 25. Okay. If age is less than, I think this should be less than or equal to 30, then 26 to 30. If age is less than or equal to, you don't need to say greater than as well, because these conditions are tested one after another. That means if this fails, only then it will go here. So there is no need to check whether it is greater than 25. You just check with boundary, which is 30. So if age is less than or equal to 35, then we will say 31 to 35. We could do this for all possible ages. I'll just skip ahead and we'll write 45 here. So 36 to 45, and then say more than 45. Okay, so 5 types of age grouping. So you will only specify everything, and then else clause will be what happens if all of these conditions fail. That's what the answer is. It's a fairly simple, straightforward way of adding multiple if conditions in Power Query, and this will give you an age grouping here. We can just close and load, and that would kind of do a screen flickering and update that table in the data model. So now that is there, from customer's age, I'll just remove age and we will add the age grouping field, and it will show you these results. While this might look all right, it does have an extra problem, which is the sort order is somewhat garbled. That means, we want to hopefully see up to 25 on the top, and then 26, 31, 36, and more than 45 at the bottom. So how do you fix the sorting of this thing? Without getting too technical, the easiest way to do this is you can select up to 25, click on the border. So you need to select that and then click on that green line, click and drag and drop it above. So this will rearrange the order within this pivot table. It won't change anything in the data. It will just make a cosmetic adjustment here that just moves up that field there. You can use this technique on pretty much any pivot table for that matter. For example, you want Apple to be on the top, you can move it. It would do that. It will pretty much erase the fact that there is a sorting done, and you can restore that with sorting again. So this is another tip that I think you might find useful. This is by far the longest video in this series, but because grouping things is a little more technical and more intricate than normal grouping when you have a data model in place, I've thought you could use this information. I hope you found this tip useful. A quick reminder, go ahead and download the sample file from the description of this video. Also, please subscribe and share this video with your colleagues and friends if you really enjoyed the content and you want them to benefit as well. Thank you. Bye-bye.